This show and tell is centered around burnout. During the one update, we talked a lot about mental capacity, well-being, productivity, those kind of things, and we take burnout very seriously. I think over the last 2, 3 years, especially with COVID, we've seen mental health being a bigger issue worldwide compared to what it's been before. So I just wanted to, talk a little bit about burnout. So what is burnout? So the line between stress and burnout is kind of hard to tell. It's burnout is basically, it's hard to tell where one begins and one ends, but basically it's burnout is the accumulation of unchecked stress, and it builds up and over a longer period of time. It's the larger, meaner brother of stress, and it states put down emotional, physical, and mental exhaustion. It's excessive and prolonged stress over a longer period of time, and it can make some person feel emotionally drained and unable to function, whether it's at work or in their personal life. So obviously, it's something we take very seriously. And signs of burnout, it's very hard to spot early signs of burnout, whether in yourself or coworkers, family members, friends, and it's very hard because it's not something that happens overnight. It gets developed over weeks or months as a response to work-related stress. And another reason why it's hard is because the symptoms always look different from one person to the next. You could have two people in the same company with the exact same role, going through the same stress, and one may become burnout and the other one may not, or they may both become burnout but show very different signs of symptoms. So that's why it's hard to find the signs. The two types of signs. The first one is the physical signs, and those are the signs that are the easiest to recognize, especially in yourself but also in others. Some examples: anxiety, fatigue, headaches, difficulty sleeping. All of those signs are a sign that people are having some types of burnout. And the other types of signs that are harder to diagnose, I would say, are psychological signs, and they have definitely a big toll on the quality of life. An increasing cynical outlook on life and work would be one, for example. Always feeling a bit in a bad mood, low morale. If you have difficulty concentrating, having trouble getting down to a task, feeling lack of creativity, those are some of the psychological signs of a burnout. Other one for the quickness to anger. I forgot about this one. So obviously, we want to avoid burnout as much as possible. So I'm going to share some tips on how to avoid burnout. So set realistic goals. One of the easiest way to avoid burnout is to make sure that your schedule is manageable. If you have a chaotic schedule and you're always jumping from one thing to the next, always feeling behind, it's gonna have a big toll on your level of stress and your mental well-being. So make sure you have realistic goals that are aligned with what is expected of you at work, and what you expect of yourself. There's a big difference between being an overachiever and wanting to perform highly, and setting a goal so high that you just can't get to that goal, and it's just going to end up stressing you out. So being realistic with a goal, setting a goal and then being realistic with it is really good for your happiness. The second one would be prioritize time and tasks. Once you're organized and everything feels a lot more in control. We've talked sometimes like, oh, I'm behind in my Asana and I have a bunch of tasks that don't have any due date or overdue, or I haven't put any of task in the Asana for these clients, and it just takes a big toll on your brain because you're trying to remember everything in your brain as opposed to having it organized. So being realistic about how much time is a task going to take me? Can I do it this week? Can I do it this month? Can I do it today? Kind of thing. Sometimes we set up tasks that might take longer and than we expect, and it just puts you behind. So being aware of time management, prioritizing properly, that's a huge step towards not burning out. The other one would be give more attention to quality accounts. The squeaky wheel always gets the grease. The clients that are always emailing gets an email back. So that takes a toll on your mental health as well. Making sure that you pay attention to the right accounts, making sure we do the things that matter for those accounts. It's whether it's with clients, whether it's with coworkers, friends, just paying attention in your life to the things that matter, and not letting the noise get in the way. Yeah, it's a good step. The next one is to reach out for support. This is the one that when people feel like they're falling behind, they sometimes hesitate to reach out for support because they're like, oh, they might feel judged, they might feel shame, they might feel anything. But reaching out for support is something we definitely encourage. We have an open door policy, no judgment. So anytime you need help, definitely ask out for help. Some of the areas why you would reach out for help is one is you don't know what you're doing. You've been tasked with something that you don't know how to do. You have to do an audit that you don't know how to run. Something like this is a good time to ask for help, get some guidance, get put in the right direction, and save a lot of time and mental stress. The second one is if you've made a mistake. It's like you're human. You make mistakes. It happens. Everybody makes mistakes. So especially when you're on the verge of burnout and the performance has decreased and you're juggling many balls and you're stressed, you're more likely to make mistakes. So this is definitely a good time to ask for help, own to your mistake, learn from them, ask for help, and just fix the mistake with the support and just move forward, basically. And the last one is if you have too much on your plate. There's always juggling so many balls and falling behind and trying to keep up is always a great recipe for stress and burning out. So if you have too much on your plate, you cannot achieve the goals that you've set. You think that some clients might be dissatisfied, or yet you're letting yourself down. Just ask for help for sure. Work on yourself. We're going to cover this one in more detailed steps later in the presentation, but it's a very important one. Utilize breaks. This one is very important. I'm often guilty of not doing this one enough because you're like, oh, I have stuff to do. I should just keep working, keep doing the next thing. But taking breaks every couple of hours is a great way to recharge, to just slow down your brain a little bit. Staring at a computer for hours upon hours put a big strain on your eyes, but also on your mental health and fatigue. So taking breaks often is a really great way to combat that. On your breaks, don't bring your phone. If you go from computer to phone, it's the same thing. Try to just maybe go outside for a quick walk, do a little stretch, go grab a little healthy snack. Just avoid looking at your phone if you can on those breaks. And exercise regularly. It's something we've talked a lot about. It's not new, but moving your body, exercising, getting the blood flow going is really good for your well-being. It lowers stress. It soothes emotional exhaustion. All the burnout symptoms that we've talked a little bit up in this presentation. It really helps combat all of this, and it's not a surprise that in the PIP challenge we're running to combat the seasonal affective disorder, a lot of people have put exercise as one of the way to combat that, and it's a great way to combat the SAD as well as burnout. So if you can carve the time for yourself and exercise regularly. So those are tips to avoid burnout. But if you do find yourself suffering from burnout, if you've slept 7+ hours and you wake up in the morning and you're still feeling exhausted, those are signs that you might be having burnout or having stress that may lead to burnout. So we're going to talk about the different types of rests that you can use to deal with burnout or prevent burnout in general. And this is a well-known movement. Dr. Saundra Dalton-Smith talked about it, and it's been reused in a ton of articles and a ton of studies. But we'll go over the different types of rests. The first one is the most logical one, is the easiest one to tell if you're getting enough of or not, is physical rest. Your body will let you know if you're tired, if you're not getting enough sleep. You'll start yawning, you'll start dozing off. It's the most obvious one. That's why I put this one first. There's two different types of physical rest, however. Passive. This is called sleeping, or taking power naps, for example. This is the passive rests, physical rest. And the active physical rest would be doing a stretch, getting a massage, using an ergonomic chair and desk, for example. Those are kind of active rest that will still help your body recover and feel more rested. We talked about people have the misconception that you go to the gym to build muscle, but actually when you're at the gym, you break down the muscle, and it's when you rest that the body is repairing itself and building the muscles. So it's really important that when you're working hard, you take the breaks to recharge your brain and to let your body recover, basically. The second type of rest is the mental rest. If you're feeling distracted or overwhelmed, or you're feeling like you can't focus, you're most likely needing some mental rest. When you're mentally drained, we've heard people mention it, refer to it as the brain fog, or you're not feeling productive. It takes you twice as long to complete a task that you think you can do a lot faster, is because you might be mentally drained. So it's the mental rest deficit. Would say it's caused by overtaxing your thinking. You're always thinking, you're always doing it all day long, and by the end of the day, you just can't do it anymore. You just need to take a mental rest. So some of the ways to combat this: write down your to-dos. So we use Asana for that, but as I said, downloading everything from your brain into a system, whether it's a notepad, whether it's Asana, for your whether it's a personal to-do list. We talked about the distraction list in the pro tips. If you're working and thinking of something you have to do in your private life, pay a bill or something like that, just put it down, write it down, and then this way it won't clog your brain anymore. So it's really important to just try to use the system so you don't have to remember everything. I talked about making checklists, whether you're doing a checklist for work, doing a checklist for a trip, anything like that. Again, writing things down, taking it away from your brain is a good way to free some mental capacity. Creating a shutdown ritual. This one is we talked about. If you wake up in the morning, you might go for a walk around the block before going back to your house and start working. Just something to differentiate work and life. In an interview we did yesterday, that lady talked about changing outfits. So she wakes up, puts on her work clothes, she works, and at the end of the day, she goes back and gets changed into a different outfit. So for her, that's the physical differentiation between I'm at work, I'm not at work. And that's a good little tip, because it's we talked about having the computer, everybody works from home, and how the work from home slowly became live at work, because you always have your work email available and your work computer available. And it's really important to differentiate the time you're at work and the time you're not at work. In France, it's actually illegal to send employees email after work hours. Not a lot of companies abide by that rule, but it's technically legal, and some companies have gone in trouble for that. So it's take a break from problem solving. That's a big one. Sometimes I'm trying to diagnose an issue with a client or with a software, with a tool or anything like that, and I've been diagnosing a lot of issues all day. That's when I'm talking about I'm taking longer to do something that should take me not as long. So sometimes I'll step away from those type of problem solving tasks, and I'll go into more data entry or more something that's more menial task that doesn't require as much brain power. And this one is not for everybody, but meditation has shown a lot of benefits in terms of slowing down your brain, clearing your brain, and just refocusing on yourself. And the breaks during the day, this one applies for physical, but also for mental. And I talked about leaving your phone away from the mental break, just taking a break that just allows you to stop your brain from thinking, from being in overrun, basically, and just slow things down. Taking a little walk definitely helps. The third time of rest is a social rest. So this rest has two different ways of resting, but they both involve your social life. Whether you are sometimes feeling like you need to go connect with somebody, you need to go build a bond, and you need to be in presence of other beings to feel connected, to feel re-empowered, and the other way would be sometimes you are really craving some me time. You're in meetings all day, you're talking all day, you're doing a lot of activities, and you just wanted to pause everything, grab a book, and just have some me time. And it's the social rest could be one way or the other. It's all about whether you want some more connection or some less connection, but it's definitely a good one. So the main thing we would put for this one is to evaluate your relationships. So spend more time with the people who give you energy, and spend less time with people who steal your energy. We've all had friends that are very high demanding, that take a lot of your energy as opposed to give you some energy. So when you're feeling stressed, when you're feeling burnt out, avoid spending time with those people. And if you're an introvert, as I mentioned, you block out time to be alone. Don't feel like you have to be with somebody else. You just grab a book, do something, but spend some quality me time. The number 4 is the spiritual rests. This one is not just for spirituality in terms of religion, but in terms of just feeling connected with the world around us. When we're feeling disconnected with the rest of the world, it can leave us feeling unmoored. So the spiritual rest can provide us a sense of a purpose, a sense of belonging, and finding our place. So some of the tips to help with the spiritual rest is to be part of something bigger than yourself. So go volunteer for a cause, for example. Participate in some faith-based activities if it aligns with your belief system, or hire a coach or a mentor to work with a mentor to reconnect your short-term goal to the bigger picture. So sometimes we get so bogged down with the short-term goal. What are my goals for this week? What are my goals for this month? That you can lose yourself into a bigger picture. What do you want to accomplish in your life? And is the life you're living right now aligned with that bigger picture? And meditate. Surprise, surprise! In the spiritual, definitely meditation is recommended for the people who can do that. Number 5 out of 7, the sensory rest. It's we are in a world overloaded by noise, by notification, it's very hard on our senses. We're overstimulated as people. I've often felt about, I just grab my phone and look at it, and I don't know why. Nothing happened with my phone. I didn't hear a noise. I didn't do anything, but just like we get trained by stimulation, and our brain just crave more and more stimulation, and that's a huge issue, I think, in the world in general. But it's definitely something that can lead to burnout, because it's linked to some aspect with the mental rest, is because we're always overstimulated. Our brain has trouble taking breaks and taking rest, and we're always on. So if you need retreat from all this sensory overload, reconnect with yourself and your senses. One of the top tips would be take a break from social media. Social media are a huge time suck. They are allegedly bad for mental health. When you always compare yourself to others, you always creating things you don't have. They don't bring a lot of happiness, in my opinion. So taking a little break from social media, if you're finding yourself stressed, if you're finding you're short on time to do things for yourself that matter, that would make you feel better, just take a break from social media. Whether it's removing the application from your phone, or just pausing your account altogether, or just pausing notification if you don't want to take that big of a step. But that's definitely a big one. So we talk about turning off notification, sounds, visual alerts on your phone, as well as on your computer. So if you're working on a task, turn off your chat, turn off your email, so you don't have the Gmail with the one as soon as you get an email that's not read, that makes you want to go read that email instead of doing what you're doing right now. So turn off notifications. Limit video meetings. Everybody has been zoomed out over the last 2 years. It is a drain on people's mental health when you're in video meetings all day, not getting some work done. You're not always engaged in the meeting, so that's a big one. Turn off chat and email while working. Just talked about this one. Set a relaxing evening ambience. So at work, after work, you're at home and you're feeling stressed, you're feeling overstimulated, just turn on the light a little bit, put some candles, put some nice relaxing music, and the environment plays a huge role in how we feel. So if you set up that environment to be calming, then you'll feel more calming. Sometimes I've done like little steps to it. So if I'm working, feeling stressed, I can feel like I'm overwhelmed, but I'm feeling like I'm a little bit behind. I just basically step away from the computer, close my eyes for a minute, and take some deep breath, just even for a minute, and then you sit down, and then it has a big impact on your internal system and helps slows it down. So it's a good little exercise to do for baby steps, I would say. Oh, there you go. Close your eyes and for a minute, take deep breath. We could all do it together. No, just kidding. And the last one is go get some fresh air. This one benefits multiple types of rests, but I can't overstate it. That's something that my wife and I try to do a little bit more at lunch, is to go for a walk for like even 10 minutes, go outside, get some fresh air, get a break from the screen. It's a huge huge help for slowing down and just giving your sensor a rest, I would say. Yeah, give them a little break. This one is a big one, the emotional rest. This is the deficit occurs when you feel like you can't be authentic. So for example, an airline attendant who is always smiling despite rude passengers. If you're always doing, if you're not feeling like you can truly be yourself on the day-to-day basis, then it definitely adds stress to yourself. So some of the tips for that is to spend time with people you can be authentic around. You don't have to play a role. You can just be who you are. You can vent out to a friend, try speaking to a therapist, or keep a journal to release emotional labor. Again, a lot of the stress and the burnout is to keep things bottlenecked. So I talked about offloading the brain into a spreadsheet or into a to-do list, into Asana. Doing the same thing with emotional stress. You have to offload it somehow. If you carry it in yourself, it's not going to do you any good in the long run. So make sure you have an outlet to offload that emotional stress. And the last one is a creative rest. So if you've ever felt like you're just out of good ideas, you're working something, it's like I just can't think of anything else right now, you're most likely experiencing creative drain, creative stress. It's also known as the creative block or writer's block, and it is more for some types of job than others, like graphic design, for example, would be one. Artists, writers, but it also affects problem solvers. We do a lot of problem solving in our work, and it is we have to be creative in order to solve issues. So it could be a point of stress for our work as well if you're if you're always solving problems. So the tips to remediate this one would be appreciate beauty in any form, whether it's human-made or natural-made. So natural would be, for example, go check out a sunset or a sunrise. When is the last time you actually went somewhere nice and just sat down and appreciated a sunset? It seems silly, but it's nice. I've done it a little bit lately, and it makes me feel very good. Go for a walk in nature and the forest. I think when I see kids, for example, they're at home running around like crazy, being a little demon, you put shoes and a coat on them, you put them in nature, and suddenly they turn into little angel. I think humans in general, that's my point of view, but are meant to be outside a lot more than we are. So if you're feeling stressed, if you're feeling like you don't have your creative juice, just go reconnect with nature. Just go for a hike, go for a walk, go to something outside, and I think it's a huge stress release for on many levels. Or do something that's more human created. Go visit a museum, art festival, go see James playing his band, or engage as a spiritual music, as inspiring music, books, documentaries, something that's that gets you inspired and can rekindle your creative juice. So that's a lot of information about what is stress, what is burnout, what can we do. A lot of this information, everybody kind of knows about it, not to every single like the big extent, but we all know about all those kind of stress points and how to remediate some of this one. So what can we do with this information to actually make it impactful, to actually turn into action? The first one is to not, in French we say, you have your appetite bigger than your stomach. So it's like, don't try to nail every single type of rest at the same time. Try to think about, where do you think your bigger deficit is? Is it physical? Is it mental? Is it creative? Is it spiritual? And start with that one. If you have a couple that you really want to work on, start with two. So take baby step. If you don't know where you want to start, there is a rest quiz you can take. It takes about 5 minutes, I would say. There's quite a few questions, but they're pretty simple to answer. And then you get emailed the results with a grading per categories of rest, basically, and stress, and to tell you where you should focus your rest. I took it today, and it's I think it's somewhat accurate. So it was yeah, some of the questions I didn't really relate to, but I think it's yeah, the results overall were pretty accurate. And over time, just create some daily and weekly habits to hit all 7 types of rest. So creating habits doesn't happen overnight. It talks about 30 days to 3 months to really create a habit that we can stick with. Otherwise, it's just a little fad. So start with, as I said, with 1 or 2, create habits for that one. Find what works for you to remediate some of that stress, to negate some of the impact of that stress. And then once those habits are worked into yourself, then go to the next one. And over the next few months, you can develop some habits that will hit all 7 types of rests, and just make yourself a less stress, and yeah, improve your well-being and your happiness in general. I think the Positive Impact Project have been really good for that. We've focused quite a few around breaking bad habits or movement and those kind of things. So I think we're taking some of the right step as a group, but this is somewhat a personal journey as well. You need to go through that personal journey and have the support of your work to allow yourself to yeah, to hit those kind of rests. So it's definitely something OneUp as an employer has a role to play, but it's also something that you need to take on your own shoulder. And it's yeah, it's going to be a two-way street. But yeah, that's the end of the presentation.